And I haven't looked at this in a while, but I remember going through this before and just screaming. I don't know if I had the energy that I had that day, but I remember just reading this on my own and just being like, what the fuck am I looking at? Right. So let's start having a look at it. So Dinner with the Andre. I'm gonna give a premise here because I don't think most people have seen Dinner with Andre. If you want, I can show you a little bit of the trailer. Does anyone want to see a little bit of the film or like a taste of the film before I start like ripping into TV tropes just for the sake of it? That's my warm up. It's all right. We'll do the trailer and I'll explain. You probably can hear. Can you hear the trailer?
Have affairs. I mean, you know, in the theater, if you get good reviews.
Okay, sorry. How do I?
You know what I mean? I mean, it's a good feeling, but then that feeling.
I'm hoping this might be a little cropped. I'm sorry, everyone.
Again, you don't know quite what you should do next. What'll happen? Well, have an affair, and up to a certain point, you can really feel that you're on firm ground. You know.
Maybe I'll. All right, I'm going to adjust this for just 2 seconds.
Different questions. Does she enjoy the ears being nibbled? How intensely can you talk about Schopenhauer at some elegant
All right.
restaurant?
It is a film about two guys talking, two bougie guys, and they know, I mean, when they wrote this, they knew that was the case. But it is a conversation with someone that you perhaps don't want to have a conversation with, someone you haven't seen for a long time, and a strange fellow who's a little bit off his rocker. And it's a very long, wistful conversation that they both have, where they sit down, and yeah, I believe it's Wallace. Is it Wallace Shawn? Who's this guy here? You know, Inconceivable on Star Trek a lot. Also in Princess Bride. He has this dinner. He sees himself. I think he says he's like a pauper, but he's like they're actors. They're both theatre majors. Yeah, can you hear the trailer audio? You should be able to.
Semblance that there's firm earth. Well, have a real relationship with a person that goes.
This guy's kind of crazy.
That's completely unpredictable.
Sometimes conspiracy theorists literally like to clip parts of this film and go, "It's so true. He was so ahead of his time." I think it's supposed to be kind of ridiculous. A lot of the stuff he says. Maybe not all of it, but like it's a man that is described at the beginning of the film as someone who's kind of like gone a little bit off his rocker. Like they're explaining people finding him in these situations where he's like crying in the middle of the street, talking about going to Zanzibar or something. It is just like everyone's a bit like, what happened to this dude? What's going on? And yeah, well, all right. I'll see if I can make it a little bit louder for everyone.
Your ties to the land, and you're sailing into the unknown, into uncharted seas. I mean, you know, people hold on to these images of father, mother, husband, wife, again, for the same reason, because they seem to provide some firm ground. But there's no wife there. What does that mean? A wife, a husband, a son. A baby holds your hands, and then suddenly there's this huge man lifting you off the ground, and then he's gone. Where's that son?
Yeah, it's a strange trailer for it because it's hard to advertise a film like this.
The life of a playwright is tough.
I think the trailer. All right, someone in the chat. Like, I think the trailer, in theory, should be able to explain the plot. So I'm going to kind of give it there. But the looseness of it is two people, two playwrights, two people who kind of experience in their own life, come together for a very long conversation in a diner, well, like in a very upper scale restaurant, and one of them is kind of lost the plot a little bit, and the other one is kind of New York cynical. And it's these two positions where, like, you live in New York, you kind of get a perspective. This is based in the 70s, I believe, this is 70s New York we're talking about. And one of them, who was a very successful playwright, had went off, and he just sort of lost the plot. He probably got burnt out, and he went to do all this, like, rich people I've lost go to, like, it sounds like he joined a cult, quite frankly. And it was a huge, as you can see, like, the critics love this film. I think it's a fine time. It's a little bit pretentious, to be frank, but and I think the other guy is like a little bit insufferable to listen to, quite frankly. But I think is it Wallace Shawn? Inconceivable Man. I think he's good in the film. But you can see, like, Siskel and Ebert loved this film, and Ebert said, like, this was the one film I'd seen without tropes. And this is why I bring it up, because I think it's an interesting... He is from Toy Story, that is correct. Is it Wallace Shawn? Please, if someone in the chat tell me, is it Wallace? Is this man Wallace? But... yeah, it's sort of a down... Alright. I mean... yeah, New York Metro. These people, like, they were talking about this, like, daring cinematic things. Like, it's two guys talking. It's a stage play on the screen, effectively. I've never seen a film like this. That is the key here. We're talking Roger Ebert saying, I have never seen a film like this. Yeah, he is in Young Sheldon. He's a great... yeah, and that's Eric Saatchi. That is, what's it called? It starts with a G, G1. It's like... it's a good track. I like the track. It's public domain, which is probably why it's in the film. Because it was made, obviously, very cheaply. Because it's like it's basically shots of New York, probably without a permit, walking around New York with a handstand, just like, you know, standstill camera, in real time without a permit, probably just running around to try and get the shots, and then it's just shot in a what looks to be I imagine one of their friends had a restaurant and they just shot in the restaurant, and that's the whole film effectively. Yeah, it's very backgroundy. And yeah, Wallace Shawn here. Yeah, Wallace Shawn. If it is Wallace Shawn, Mr. Inconceivable, Mr. Hairline here. He is a wonderful actor, funny voice. He played a lot of characters because, to quote him, he has a voice that pierces through stuff. His you know, it's just like inconceivable. His voice is very piercing, and it talks like this. And in his early years, maybe not as much, but like you can kind of see that. But yeah, this is why we're talking about. Roger Ebert once made a quote about this film, and he was very, very complimentary to the film. I don't know if he should have been. But yeah, it's these two people talking. It's a stage play on the screen. Yeah, he is the dinosaur in Toy Story. He's in a bunch of other stuff, including Star Trek, Princess Bride. Nice shots there. There's nice shots of New York in here from the 80s.
Debbie was home from work.
Yeah, 4,000. I wouldn't be surprised. It's a pretty small budget, especially in it's a pretty small budget. I imagine most of that would have probably just been what I haven't even got a clue. Probably just the film itself and shooting these shots outside, and maybe renting out the thing. But yeah, maybe they spent a lot of time, I don't know, getting it all made, so maybe the production went up a bit. But it's a pretty simple film. All right, that's what you get. The whole thing's on YouTube. And okay, yeah, there you go. There's Wallace Shawn and Andre Gregory, I think they say. And there is an element of the film that is supposed to be attacking themselves, I think, as like people who live the playwright life and how pretentiously up its own ass it is. There was a scene that one of them talked about that was supposed to be in the film but couldn't get shot, where they were supposed to be continuing the conversation outside, and the idea was that there was supposed to be a huge contrast between these really bougie two individuals talking about high life flaunting stuff against the backdrop of working class people doing construction and other stuff, and like just people like living their lives, homeless people, like, and they're talking about the theatre's just not the same anymore. It's not what it used to be. The art form hasn't changed. Like that is the wait, this is like the Up series if you watch that. Like the 7-Up series? I'm not familiar with it. This is mainly just a film. Yeah, you could... Okay, so, alright. That's the gist of... that's the gist I'm going to give you for the thing. Now, this is... Now, the key of all this to come up with was to shit talk TV tropes. We'll see how much shit talking there is, because there's obviously a lot of stuff here what we can see here, and I'm almost... What I think a trope is and what TV tropes has become are like two different things, where like some of this is just trivia. And yeah, so the premise here is we have, when we're talking about Dinner with Andre, is a film that at the time was effectively a stage play as a movie, presented, I think with probably TV backing, if I remember right, and put out in theatres as something where it's just a conversation. It's a very long-winded conversation between two people That's the movie. Deal with it. That's the concept, which is why a lot of film critics were very into it. I guess, when you spend your whole time watching blockbusters and other stuff, I imagine something like this maybe cuts through the wire in like 1981. I guess they were big fans of this stuff. It's very screenplay. It's very much on the writing and the performances. They're playwrights, so you can totally tell this is a play in the making. And I was curious now, as I said, Roger Ebert talking about the film about tropes. Well, what does TV Tropes think the tropes in a film which allegedly had no tropes is? That is the whole premise here. That's where we're at. Yes, the anti-trope. Yeah, this is kind of how it feels. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be shit talking. We're gonna I might as well call this video just shit talking TV tropes for like 20 minutes. But let's go through it. Affluent I can't even say this fucking word. Affluent ascetic. What? How? All right. Affluent. All right. Andre, there is a very fancy restaurant, but unlike Wally, who's eating his meal, Andre barely touches his. Being too absorbed in his conversation, his main course is taken almost uneaten. At the end, Andre pays for their meals, showing that he is much more affluent than Wally. So, I guess having rich people in a film is now a trope. Rich people is now a trope, I'm afraid, guys. If you've ever seen a film with a rich person, I'm afraid it is a trope, and it is nitpicking bias, and it's game over. So this is what I'm talking about when we get into the sort of strangeness of this. And as itself, played with, although the characters are named by the actors who play them, some of the events described apparently happened to both Wallace Shawn and Andre Gregory. They have denied that they were playing themselves entirely. In an interview with Roger Ebert, they stated that they were trying to... to remake the movie, they'd swap roles to prove the point. In another interview with Noah Baumbach, Shawn said, I wanted to destroy that guy I played, to the extent that there was any of me in there. I wanted to kill that side of myself by making the film, because that guy was totally motivated by fear. Yeah, shit-talking TV tropes for 20 minutes, that's where we're going with this. Those damn capitalist dogs, I know. TV Tropes wrote the word wrong? Well, of course they have. Ascetic? It's supposed to be aesthetic? Oh, okay. Whatever it be. Yeah, so this is idea, I don't know. I'm kind of in a perspective that, like, the idea of having people inspired by real life is not necessarily what I'd consider a trope. In any considered way, because I think a lot, art imitates life, life imitates art. Sometimes you're going to take pieces of yourself. If they're playing themselves, it seems quite vague. This feels more to me, when you have a bit on here which is like as himself, that's this long, it effectively feels like I'm reading the film trivia, not a trope page, but then there's also no sources. So while they say these interviews exist, they don't actually link to these interviews, which another problem I have with something like TV Tropes is when it becomes a source in itself, but one doesn't actually label where it gets its information from. And avoiding the dreaded G rating. This is, to me, is very confusing, and I think this is very American core. But the film initially was unrated in the US because filmmakers decided not to submit it to the MPAA. It's not a children's film, but there isn't anything unsuitable. Probably because it's expensive to get a film rated. From my experiences, that it usually, because it's like you have to pay per minute. I wouldn't be surprised if it was just yeah. The film was eventually rated PG. So maybe the distributors were worried that they might mislead audiences. I mean, it's a film for old men. Even though I don't think there's anything in the film which could be, well, I don't know, some of their conversations could be considered a little bit more rude at times. So I could see that maybe why, but it's not. Dinner with Andre is definitely not a film for the whole family. Okay, someone living the really simple life. There we go, someone in the thing. All right, actually, everyone, for a second, I need to cut this for a second to show everyone the Dinner with Andre Simpsons clip, and hopefully not to get copyright claimed. Simpsons Dinner with Andre, one of my favorite Simpsons clips, right here. Hopefully this doesn't kill me, but it's already up on YouTube, so I don't know what this if this will do much. But the video game Dinner with Andre.
Thirsting for a way to name the unnameable, to express the inexpressible.
Tell me more.
Gets me every time. That's so funny. What does it say on the thing? So it's like trenchant insight. Bon mot. Tell me more. Fuck. Yeah, PR reception. Again, like, this is the strangeness of what I think TV Tropes has become, where TV Tropes seems to just become a list of things about the film opposed to actually what we could consider tropes, and that, like, tropes become a completely meaningless concept when there are so many and they don't make any sense and they're considered this way. Especially when a film like Dinner with Andre can have this many tropes, and yet they say nothing. Like, based on a true story. And then this is basically the same trope we've seen twice now. Where, like, again, it may not actually apply here, see above, but like they're stretching it and they're repeating themselves. Bookends. The film begins and ends with Wally traveling to and from the dinner. What a miracle! The film begins and ends in a very similar fashion of ending the thing. You start the film by doing something and you end the film by finishing doing it. Inconceivable! Amazing! Has anyone ever truly troped as hard as to finish the thing you did at the start of the film to bookend the film? Truly, the most awful of tropes is finishing what you're doing in the same way that you began it. Can I chill, homie? No. Oh, okay, sorry, it's Windows 9. I'm not going to chill, but I don't know who Windows 9 is. Trenchant Insight does sound like a great name for podcast. I'll keep an eye on it. Okay, sorry, what was I? So yeah, people talking about French in the comments. The 80s afters make sure our children don't turn into devil worshippers. Yes, I don't know if Dinner with Andre is going to turn anyone into a devil worshipper, but I think there's certainly an element of fear-mongering in the guy presenting a lot of it. I mean, a rating trope being that you put something risky in the film to avoid G rating. As far as I remember, there is nothing risky in My Dinner with Andre. There's not like a nude scene in My Dinner with Andre. No one gets stabbed or anything like that. I don't think anyone even swears. Okay, motis, pronounced mo. It's French again, literally means good word. Okay, I'm sure that's the these playwrights speaking French, what are you going to do with them? Okay, not me. Okay, fair enough. Alright. Yeah, so, again, bookend, I don't know how I could consider such a thing a trope, but, I don't know, maybe I'll leave it up to the audience. Broken pedestal. One of the reasons why Wally didn't want to meet Andre, he'd heard Andre had been acting strangely. His fears were confirmed. What a yeah, the man is absolutely off his rocker. Is in much of a way you can be in the 80s sense of this. He is not with the living. Yeah. So I wonder if the 80s and 90s, they might consider adult discussions past point of general audiences because of the themes of aimlessness, or just get more interest, probably. 80s were just boomers, cults, credit cards, and consumers' lives. Yeah, I mean, that's generally the same as it is now in some ways, but yeah, I guess things are a little bit more complicated. The link doesn't work? What link? I mean, I'm sure swearing is a trope in some point, but there is no swearing in this film as far as I remember. Right. I don't really understand what broken pedestal is as a trope. This makes no sense to me. Someone is acting strangely, and then he is acting strangely. Again, the position of what tropes are considered on this website completely drives me up the wall. Brown note. Andre describes that he had a flag made with a Tibetan swastika. Just casually, who doesn't make a flag with a Tibetan swastika on it? Who doesn't do that in their day-to-day? On it, he intended to take it with him to India for the purposes of charging into a tometic energy. Oh my fucking god! And he could bring. This is what I'm talking about. However, the flag allegedly caused one of his friends, unaware of the origins of the flag, to come home and tell him that it was evil and that it was made his wife vomit in terror. What is? When she asked him to unfurl it at a party in the end. Who brings a swastika flag to a party? Even if you know the origins, you can't just be like, nah, mate, no, you don't understand. This isn't that swastika. This is the other swastika you'll find. Historically, it's been used quite a bit before the Nazis. I don't think you could quite understand me right now, but I am quite educated, and you are not. And this is certainly not the swastika you think it is. It is the enlightened swastika. Oh my fucking god, these people. Fucking affluent people, man. What is even... Okay, ritually... Okay, they burnt the flag. Alright, I don't even know what brown note means in this context, but take that as you will. Building of adventure. There isn't much of an adventure going on, but the movie takes place mostly in a restaurant. So there's no building of an adventure at all, and that's not a trope. It's just not the trope that you just described. What the fuck? This is what I'm fucking talking about. This page makes me want to kill myself. This is fucking ridiculous. Character development. Character development is now a trope, everyone. Can we see what world we are living in? We are living in the world of My Dinner with Andre at this point. Jesus Christ. Building of adventure is apparently a trope. Yeah, and when the characters do not build an adventure and do nothing of the sort, it is now a trope. I guess it's the reverse of the trope. By not going on an adventure, they are also troping. These tropes don't make any sense. If you had to explain a trope with more than 3 lines, it's not even a trope exactly. Yeah, you're right. Stormy night, this side, how you do it? It's actually pretty nice. I'm pretty warm. I think it's just a quiet, windy night, probably. But I'm inside. It's all good. Yeah. The American rating system was still young back in 1981. 3 years later, PG rate. Yeah, to be fair, it wasn't a common thing to rate stuff back then, wasn't it? Because it was just like a general thing. Because stuff like Indiana Jones has a ton of blood and fucked up shit in it, which probably you wouldn't be able to get away with today. Okay, both movies are two scary things for PG movies, but not enough for an R rating. Oh. Temple of Doom and Gremlins. Actually, this is quite interesting. Gustavo, this is interesting because in England, Gremlins is a 15. You have to be 15 years old to see Gremlins in England. However, in America, I think it's a PG. So it's because the 2 rating boards had very different minds about what Gremlins is about. Because the Gremlins... in England, I imagine because of the scene with the microwave, and other stuff within Gremlins, it got a much higher rating in England. And my sister-in-law actually has a story that she tried to see Gremlins back in the day when it first came out, when she was young, and she was too young and couldn't go to see it because it was a 15. So yeah, it's really interesting how in America it got a much more lax rating, but in England they were much more strict with the rating, which is usually the opposite. Why am I using Opera? I've been using Opera for a fucking decade at this point. I don't know. Why would I use Firefox? Get that fucking shit out of my face. Firefox. More like fucking fire that fox. Get out of here. Disgusting. But the reason I originally started using Opera is because it was a lighter browser than Chrome. And I used to have a very shit laptop. So I wanted to use the most lightweight browser I could. And Chrome was just basically leaking too much RAM for me to use it consistently. And I've just continued to use it since. So I'm Oprah till I die right now. They should be fucking sponsoring me, those motherfuckers at Oprah, because I've been using this browser for longer than I can fucking remember. Oh, the Gremlin flasher. I don't think you see anything too crazy with the Gremlin flasher. It's been a long time since I've seen the first Gremlins. I was a big fan of the second one growing up. I don't know if I saw the first one too many times. Yeah, I'm Oprah till I die. I'm never going back. Yeah, I would assume it's the microwave scene that got it. Yeah, I mean, I think I was a little bit too... Brave wasn't out when I was changing browsers, but yeah. I'm team Oprah till I die. They need to sponsor me. Sponsor me, Oprah. Come on. According to TV Tropes, they want a non-linear mess that just ends in the middle of... Yeah, I don't even know what is the... Sometimes I wonder what the premise of TV Tropes is even supposed to do. Like, is it fun for people to just mark down the random shit that happens in movies? Like, was there originally a point of TV Tropes to try and define pieces of media and be like, this kind of trope is not helpful? I'm not... Because at this point, this stuff is not tropes. Character development is not a trope. Realistically downplayed, as there's little happening in the movie. Again, this thing is barely any character development. Realistically downplayed, as there's little happening in the film, other than the conversation itself. However, the ending note of the dialogue shows Andre at his probable most depressed ever, and the epilogue subtly demonstrates that Wally, at the least for the time being, has reconnected somewhat with the real world around him. So the character development is that Andre just got sadder. And Wally's like, that was a strange conversation I had, but I feel somewhat more connected to the world than that weirdo. Yeah, Chrome can take the bullet. Listen, I will not tolerate Firefox love in the chat. I will destroy all Firefox love people in the comments. There is no leniency towards Firefox in this chat. We are an anti-Firefox channel at this current point because I say so, because I'm feeling it in this moment. Don't test me. Don't test me. Yes. I am. Yes, I'm one of the 1 in 20 people that use Oprah, so that's why they need to respect me. But yeah, we can all hate Chrome together. Son, bro, if you weren't a patron, you'd be out of here right now. I will censor you to the day I die. This is not an open platform. I am not the government. But yeah, Chrome sucks. Hashtag Chrome sucks. Waterfox, I'm 100% okay with Waterfox. In fact, I encourage Waterfoxes. That sounds cute. Alright, but to say it, character development is now a trope. What the fuck is a cloud cuckoo lander? They are just making up words now. Wallace thinks Andre might be a mild example of this. I'm assuming he means that Andre is somewhat unwell, maybe? I think that might be what they get. That is... What does this even mean? Have you ever heard of a cloud cuckoo lander, fellow people in the chat? Have you ever heard of such an idea? Yes, we can all join together, hating Chrome. And Nightfring, I appreciate the comments about the Nausicaa video. It's been doing very well recently. I think we're at 86,000 views. It's started to pick up a lot of steam out of nowhere again. I'm happy with that. Hopefully during the month of December, when we're going to be releasing lots of videos. What the fuck is that? I don't know, Jay. I don't know what it is. I could click it, but I dare to... I feel like clicking it would make me angry, but alright, I'll do it. Okay, a cloud cuckoo lander, a character with their head in the cloud. Oh my fucking god, just call it a character with their head in the clouds. Why do you need to create this insane term? They are very cheerful and strangely oblivious of things. I do not believe Andre is either of those things. What the hell are you talking about? Could you just not say head in the clouds? What? But yeah, back to business. Yeah, in December we're talking about 4C. Hopefully there's going to be about 15 videos, and at the end there'll be a giant video which will have more stuff in it, which will be like the whole of 4C. We're going to be talking about every like video game cutscenes, ads, etc. The stuff I can't turn into a whole video, I will be like adding in, sprinkling between and it'll be in chronological order. I feel like beforehand in December, you're going to get what I give you, effectively. Like when a video is finished, it will go out. Even if it's not like chronologically done, I'm just going to be throwing them out whenever they're finished. So they might just come out in like any old order. We're just going to have random, like just a complete clop of just random. We'll just be jumping from years and every week, or every day, I guess. But yeah, and hopefully, I feel like the big version of the video will be my preferred way of watching it for everyone, because that's going to be the polished version. But if you feel like watching it just as we go, because it's going to be very long, like the whole final video is going to be really long. So if you just want to like skip around on the final video, like, you know, click from time, I'll make sure it's all bookmarked so you can check through. But yeah, we'll see how it all goes. Yeah, all right, Cloud Cuckoo Lander kind of sounds like a slur and like a fantasy land, quite frankly. It almost sounds like kind of offensive. Yeah, I hate this website too, Jay, but I think we suffer together and we die forever. That's where we're at. All right. Fun fact: the first PG-13 film was David Lynch's Dune. Interesting. A brief severed head. Nice. Very nice. Yeah, but these people speak a different language on TV tropes. Let's say they don't. Very much like Andre, they do not live in reality. There's whole pages at pornography for people with trope fetishes. I feel like very much so that you have to be a kind of special. You know, there's a kind of individual that spends all day on TV tropes. I'm not judging here, but yeah, it is what it is. I mean, I just feel like a clueless, oblivious person could have been like head in the clouds would have made more sense because people know what that means. Where a cloud cuckoo lander is just like such an. It feels like. Yeah, like I said, it feels like a fucking slur. It feels like someone created like a randomly weird slur in the world of like My Little Pony. Like, these are not tropes. This is what I'm talking about. Okay, someone's telling me Red Dawn is... There's a battle in the chat right now where someone is telling me Red Dawn is the first PG-13 and someone's telling me Dune is the first PG-13. Both of those cannot be the first. You have to fight it out to prove which one of you is right. And... Abandon this site immediately before you die of a stroke. I am going to die peacefully in my sleep, thank you very much. Probably after the stream. We'll speed it up a bit. I'm going to go through a couple of these because if not, I'm not going to hear all day. The Corruptible. Andre notes that the... oh my god, this is probably really going to be... this is going to be Orientalist as fuck, isn't it? Andre notes that the Japanese monks weren't immune to Western corruption. What does that even mean in this context? That's historically illiterate. You know that... Alright, let me give an Andre impression. You know, he started wearing an elegant Gucci shoes under the white monk robes. He was eating huge amounts of food. I mean, he ate twice as much as Nicholas ate, you know? The tiny little Buddhist. When I first met him, you know, he was eating like a bowl of milk, hot milk with rice, and was now eating huge beef. It was very strange. I feel like TV Tropes is doing some sort of weird Orientalism here when talking about this, because I don't necessarily get the same quantities from this thing, but I don't know. This is a very strange way of putting... I don't know. All right, let's moving on. Crack pairing. Invoked by Wally, who states with a disgust that people will do this at parties. What if Richard Nixon met Frank Sinatra? That sounds both a terrible trope and also a terrible thing to do at parties. I hate both of them. The Danza. Wallace Shawn and Andre Gregory playing characters. Oh my fucking god, that's the third time this is the same thing they've said. They've seen the three times they've said the same thing. I'm losing my mind. Death by materialism. Okay, I could probably agree that that's definitely something that's happening in this film. It could be considered a trope. This is probably the first time I could see something actually being a trope. One of the running themes in the film is Andre summarizes with the story of Lady Hatfield. Don't you remember that comfort can be dangerous? I mean, if you like to be comfortable, I would like to be comfortable too, but comfort as a lull into the dangerous tranquility. I mean, my mother knew a woman, Lady Hatfield, who was one of the richest women in the world, and she died of starvation because all she would eat was chicken. I mean, she liked chicken, Wally, and that was all she would eat. And actually her body was starving, but she just didn't know it caused her. She was quite happy eating chicken, and so she finally died, probably of fucking scurvy at that rate. Oh my god, she must have been like jaundice and orange as... Ugh. See, I honestly believe that we are all like Lady Hatfield now. We're having a lovely, comfortable time with our electric blankets and our chicken. Meanwhile, we're starving because we're so cut off from contact with reality. We're not getting the real subsistence. This is why this is like a crackpot film. Because the idea of being comfortable in some capacity and then bringing it to this like absolutely ludicrous example of someone dying because all they eat with chicken because they're too like rich to understand the difference. It's just two completely different situations. Because we don't see the world, we don't see ourselves, we don't see how our actions affect other people. It might be one giant community in joke. What is this whole website just a joke? Am I in a sassy mood? This website brings the sass out of me. If the Soviets were us and won the Cold War, that wouldn't be suffering at this terrible fate. I mean, I feel like we'd be suffering a different fate. But I don't know. If you're saying the Soviets would remove TV tropes, that's truly a dystopian. Could you imagine the film about the Soviet Union destroying TV tropes? Truly, it will be the height of liberal propaganda. Will be the underground films about the destruction of TV tropes. The tumble of resistance will not fight. Will fight back. Oh, Jesus Christ. First bunch was came out the rate. Okay, yeah, we're talking about Dune. Okay. Okay, yeah, Red Dawn, etc. What is this? Yeah, I mean, this, yeah. You can't die from me. I don't know, dude. You might be able to die of eating chicken if you eat nothing but chicken, right? Because you might get scurvy. Because there's no vitamin C in chicken, right? You'd probably get scurvy eventually. You'd probably die of like vitamin deterioration at some point. Maybe you die of like an illness that you could easily avoid if you hadn't eaten chicken all day. I knew there weren't many things stupider than Shawn Mendes treat you better, but goddamn. Lady Hatfield died of ligament. Oh, F. At the very least, it's a stand-up. Yeah, I mean, yeah. This is my bit right here. My bit is ripping out TV tropes. This is what a lazy stand-up comedian does, aka a streamer. If you're starving for food in your belly, you won't be hungry. You'd be diabetic. Exactly. I want to see... Okay, what's Jay saying? I want to see a film of the Soviets taking down TV tropes. I think it could be a banger. That could definitely be like fucking Stalin coming for TV tropes, Stalin's ghost. That's definitely a movie I'm wanting to see. TV tropes is kind of Urban Dictionary. I mean, yeah, at this point, they might as well be the same thing. We're just reading, like... I don't know. Like, I don't know what I'd call it. Like, it's Media Critics Urban Dictionary at this point. Perhaps the TV tropes we found along the way are truly the friends. I mean, if the site is just a joke, it is one that is making me suffer, but if it's good comedy, it's good comedy, I guess. I don't think it's good comedy, but I feel like the site is a net negative, maybe overall. But, you know, if you don't take it too seriously, fine, yeah, whatever. But just if I see anyone use this as a serious source in a video, they get the gun. I'm dead serious. They get the gun. Anyone using TV tropes as a source... out of here. Despair Event Horizon. So apparently being unfortunately forced to watch the film Event Horizon is now a trope. I mean, alright, the one thing I can give TV tropes so far, death by materialism could totally be a trope. I'll give them that one trope so far. That's the one caveat they get. Despair Event Horizon. Andre complains about how he was miserable while almost everyone was commenting about how great he looked. I don't think that's a trope necessarily. I don't really understand how that just sounds like something that happens maybe in life, but it sounds like a kind of polite conceit of being part of the circles he is, that like people would talk about him looking great even though he obviously doesn't look great and he's really sad, and people would rather just like play him like false mind because of his status. That would be my assumption of what the scene is, which I don't think actually relates to the trope at all. Desperately looking for a purpose in life. Are we all desperately looking for a purpose in life? Truly, is that really a trope? Am I living a trope right now by trying to exist with some sort of feeling in my life? Should I just bury myself in the fucking ground and die? Because truly, do I really want to be living a trope lifestyle? I don't know. You know, true love, all that shit. Yeah, it sounds nice. It is nice, but kind of a trope, bro. Kind of cringe. Maybe you should just not do that. That's how I'm feeling right now. God fucking damn it. This is such a long list. I need to speed through this shit. This is fucking terrible. For the Joker is a true... How can there be so many tropes in this film? I just don't understand how this film which is just two people talking, can be considered to have this many tropes. Energetic and soft-spoken duo, that is not a trope. Establishing character moment. What is this as a trope? Characters have moments, and now this is... Wally complaining about the hectic day that Andre's talking about his experiments immediately lets you know exactly what kind of... Oh, shut the fuck up. Alright, exactly what it says in the tin. Yeah, it is literally a dinner with Andre. I guess, being honest now, we should have probably called it The Orgy with Andre. That truly would have made the film a tropeless nightmare. Extreme short time span. Yes, it is just two people talking at dinner, and then it's slightly later on, you know, the dinner shuts, so I guess they were there for maybe a couple more hours. Fun with homophones. What? Wally is initially confused by Andre telling him that ROC met Fawn Okay, so it's a pun. Genre busting. Now busting genres is now much of a trope. What genre should this be? I don't know. Theatre play in a movie. The Ghost. Pretty much everyone mentioned by Wallace and Andre. Most were ever see it's a photograph of a Polish woman Andre worked with. Debbie. What the fuck is this? And particularly the most frequently mentioned of the unseen cast. So a bunch of people. You only see two characters. Yes. Okay. Godwin's Law. Andre likes to throw references to Hitler and the word fascistic around quite frequently. I mean, he is a bit lost, so yeah, I could see that happening. Government conspiracy. Yes, this film is absolutely full of government conspiracies. I will give the film that. That could be considered a trope. That Andre is not well. He is absolutely not well, and he is definitely shoving the conspiracy juice up his nose, which is why Facebook loves this film. Would I do a line-by-line analysis of bad song lyrics? I don't think I'm cut out for it. Okay, now let me get my Andre impression back. Okay, so we're bored. We're all bored now. But has it ever occurred to you, Wally, that the process that creates this boredom can be we see the world, we now... I can't read. Now may very well be self-perpetuating, unconscious form of brainwashing created by the world totalitarian government based on money, and that all of this much more dangerous than one thinks, and not just a question of individual survival, Wally, but there is somebody who's bored, who is asleep, and nobody who's asleep can say no. There is one part where I think he calls New York a literal jail. So yeah, Andre is not a well man. He's not a well man. He thinks that bougie New York in the 70s, living the life he does, is some sort of jail that he lives in, akin to probably the Holocaust or something. I'm sure he'd bring up the point in a very tasteless remark. Maybe he does in the film. I don't remember. It's been a long time. When I originally envisioned doing this, which was ages ago, I forgot to do it. I watched the first 20 minutes of the film, but I didn't watch any more after that. So that's the research I put into this. It's probably more, it seems, than the fucking article did. I need a freaking drink. Yeah, I need a drink after reading all this fucking shit on here. I'm not reading the rest of that. Irony. Irony is now a trope, guys. The death of irony is the death of this website. Last name basis. Wally and friends, and they don't use their last names, I guess. Well, okay, great. Le film artistique. They're not seen, but Andre describes his foray into experimental theatre to qualify the movie itself as frequently discussed as an example of a trope, but what the fuck is this talking about? Magic versus science. Discussed by Andre and Wally during the dinner. The conversation. Andre has expelled the virtues of spirituality. Yeah, he's gone on a spiritual. He's a rich man going on a spiritual journey to try and get meaning out of his life that he has none of. But he takes it probably too far. Manly tears. Wallace recalls that a friend found Andre sobbing. That is true. This did happen uncontrollably. Seeing Igmar Bergman's Autumn Sonata. When the character's line hit too closely to him, I could always live in my art, but never in my life. Truly a poetess never spoke such brighter words than being a man who is a slave to his art form. Truly, I'm not living when I am not creating. Being there, Brody. Sometimes Andre laughs during the film, but it's barely controlled. Sounds like barely controlled crying. Okay. Minimalism. Now that is apparently the trope that we should all let die. Nearly the entire film is just two men engaging in conversation. Yeah, we've already talked about. Minimalist cash. Yes, there's only two people in the trope. That's not a trope. Most scales of violence and hardness. Level 0. No one gets hurt in this film. It's a terrible trope. Mushroom Samba. Andre says that he got one of the pure boredom while in Christmas Eve, so he got high on shrooms, I guess. Oh my god. I'm running through this so fast, but it is so much. I'm only in the middle of this list. Okay, well, we got all night. We got all night, baby. I'm going to slow it down a little bit. Eyes are a trope, yes. Cinematography is a trope. Apparently, right-o if you're hanging out with E friends who are right-wing, they probably do love this film because of its conspiracy garbage. New trope, everyone. Characters are breathing. Take a drink if you breathe. This is why I thought it was a bad idea to go on this site. This is why I never did this. It was regret. It was the regret I would feel of having to do this. But it keeps me on my edge. It keeps me alive. It keeps me feeling. New truth found. Walking nowhere. A character's walking, but there is nowhere going. Going nowhere is a trope, fellas. Do you not know that going nowhere is a total trope? Isn't Mushroom Samba the name of a Cowboy Bebop keyboard? Yeah, it is. New trope, I need a drink. That is true. Now let's get another one of Andre's speeches going. Let me see if I can read this without becoming illiterate, but that's probably not possible because I cannot read. When all of a sudden a huge creature appeared, looking at a... I don't even know what it says. Congregation? It was about, I say, 6'8", something like that. You know, it was half bull, half man. Its skin was blue. It had violets growing out of its eyelids, poppies growing out of its toenails. It just stood there, the whole mass. I mean, I could not make this creature disappear, you know. I thought, oh, well, you know, I'm just seeing this because I'm bored. As we all do, we all hallucinate when we're bored. That is exactly true, Andre. You know? And I could not make the creature go away. Okay, now I didn't think with people about because they'd think I was weird, but I felt the creature was somehow coming to comfort me. That somehow he was appearing to say, well, you may feel low and you might not be able to create play right now, but look what can come to you on Christmas Eve. Hang on, old friend. I may seem weird to you, but on these weird voyages, weird creatures appear. It's part of the journey. You're okay. Hang in there. This man is not well. This is not what people do on Christmas Eve. Well, not personally. I don't know. I'm speaking for the chat. I do not know. What movie am I talking about? My Dinner with Andre. My Dinner with Andre. You can clip this if you want. I was only going to clip the Ghibli version of this, but if someone else wants to clip this, go for it. Be my guest. If anyone wants to feel the hate, like I said, just shit talking TV tropes for like an hour. Oh God, what have I done? There you go. That's the title. Shit talking TV. Yeah, that's a fine title. We'll go in there. We'll go in. I will take a breathing for a second. Okay, we're taking a slight second. No antagonist! There is no time to rest. No antagonist. Fellas, don't you hate it when there is not someone trying to fuck with you in a film? Isn't that the most annoying thing you ever heard? Is just not having someone being... To be fair, I always thought Andre was the antagonist, because definitely going to dinner with Andre would be a fucking ball of aching experience. Jesus Christ. The closest the film gets is a philosophical disagreement. You know what this film should have had? Andre should have pulled out a bomb out of his hand, and he should have been like, I'm tired of it all, Wallace. I'm tired of all the bullshit. I'm gonna blow New York up. And my name will be the Joker. There you go. That's what this film should have been. This film should have been called The Joker 2. The Joker 2 should be called My Dinner with the Joker. That's what it should be. It should be Batman going to dinner with the Joker, and it should be like Walking Phoenix comes in, he sits down and he goes, can you call me the Joker? And Batman sits down and he goes, it's been a long time since we've had dinner, the Joker. And he goes, you know, Batman, I've been traveling outside of Gotham and I have a new perspective on the world. Truly, truly brilliant. No ending. There is no ending to this film. I mean, well, there is an ending, to be fair. They stop having dinner, they end the conversation, and they go home. That's the ending. I think that's a fine ending for this kind of film. I don't know what else you were expecting to happen. In a film that starts with an idea that, I need to go and have dinner with Andre, and then you have dinner with Andre, and you go, I need to go home and make dinner, and I don't know, see my girlfriend. Yeah, I mean that's what's going to happen. You know, they did their like Martin Scorsese thing. The next film is just going to be My Dinner with Andre, but with the Joker. I think that quote me now. This is what they're going to do. This is what Todd Phillips is going to do. It's going to make $1 billion, and it's going to be My Dinner with the Joker, and it's going to be Walking Phoenix just sitting down at a table for the whole film, and maybe he shoots a guy at the end. That's going to be the film. Batman at dinner with the Joker. Hey baby, it's me, the Joker. What's that guy say? I'm the Joker, baby. That's what the film's gonna be. He's gonna sit down and go, I'm the Joker, baby. Okay, fair enough, Ray, if you need to go. I mean, I don't know if My Dinner with Andre is supposed to be a mockumentary. I'm pretty sure it was an earnest film in a lot of ways. Maybe a little satirical, but I don't think it was supposed to be like a joke of a film. Yeah, I hate not having an antagonist. Sounds like a dating game. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, that's I don't know if I told you this, but I'm actually working on the tie-in video game for My Dinner with the Joker, which is a dating sim. You get to choose what villain you want to go for dinner with as the Batman. You play the Batman and you go to dinner with different characters. Not all women. A lot of them are men. Mostly men, actually. Right, so yeah, no ending, no plot, no problem. Apparently, sitting down and talking to someone is not a plot, so not so above it all. Wally and Andre laugh loudly at a dish that Andre translates as 7 swimming shrimp. Okay. Sure, I don't know if that's a trope either. Only known by initials. That's not a fucking trope. Public domain soundtrack, everyone. Public domain soundtrack. We've hit the true peak of tropes. Is when you do not have the money to buy a soundtrack, so you use Eric Saatchi's Gnopede. I don't know how to speak French, but Gnopede number 1. You use the G1, use the classic G1, Eric Saatchi's G1. That is when you are truly the trope land. I've done that in many of my videos. I'm sorry, guys, my videos are just tropes. I didn't know if you knew that. My Dinner with Andre. Why are we watching My Dinner with Ava? Can we get like Shinji to sit down with the girls and have a dinner? I'd watch that film. Yeah, I mean, I think mockumentary would be more like The Bungles or like This is Spinal Tap. My Dinner with could be the next cinematic universe. I would unironically think that would be the funniest timeline to live in, to see that this Wallace Shawn film that they made for like $500,000 back in the 80s for 2 guys to sit down and like talk about bollocks, that suddenly becomes the new thing. I mean, this is kind of how it goes, though, because I don't know if anyone remember hearing this, but they were supposed to be making like a Lex Luthor movie, but they said it was going to be Citizen Kane, but Lex Luthor. Terrible fucking idea. Absolutely horrible idea. And I think it was supposed to be a world where Superman didn't exist. Sounds like the worst idea I've ever heard for a film. But if they're just going to remake classic movies, are we going to have 12 Angry Men, but it's going to be fucking Aquaman? 12 Angry Fish, everyone. Oh, that's going to be the new film coming out next season. 12 Angry Fish. Are you ready for the universe of taking classic films and just turning it into superhero movies? My Dinner with the Joker or My Dinner with Thanos, I don't know which one it's going to be. It's all up to you, the audience. What real film do you want us to see that's a classic remade into a dime store dash equivalent with characters that you know from the internet? Production is a trope. My life is a trope. Streaming is a trope. My Dinner with Nerve, that's a good title. Breathing is a trope. We've already got into that one, yes. Existentialness is an ultimate trope. Not being depressed, wanting to kill yourself. These are all tropes. We'll get to the Studio Ghibli tier list at some point, people. I'm sorry that I put you through this, but we have to get ready. We have to get ready with My Dinner with Miyazaki. That was actually going to be my first feature film. Is eating ass is absolutely a trope that I am 100% behind. But yes, my first movie is going to be My Dinner with Miyazaki, and I'm just going to sit down with my poor understanding of Japanese, and he's just going to talk for an hour and a half about how much he hates animation and life, and how much everyone should die of a flood or something. And I'm just going to be like, tell me more. Sounds interesting, but what about this? Miyazaki will say, animation, I barely knew her, and I'm like, interesting that you bring that up, yet you make animated films, I'm very smart. That's going to be My Dinner with Gamers, yeah. It's going to be a gamer film, very gamer. Realistic depiction is unrealistic. All right, they need to fucking explain this one to me, because I'm not happy with this. Like, a reasonable amount of ers and pauses while they eat their food. Truly, pausing in between sentences, as I just did a second ago, to prove my point, that is very unrealistic. Realistically unrealistic to go, I'm thinking as I say these words, truly these men just didn't learn their scripts very well. I mean, to be fair, they might have been loosely scripted. It's hard to say, but they're just trying to give a more, just trying to make it a bit more casual when they talk their lines. I think that's fine. I don't know. I don't see how that's really a trope, but okay. Real time. The movie is almost entirely devoted to a dinner. I don't necessarily think it's 100% real time, because by the time they get in at a regular time, and then when they leave, it's the end of the night. He took the taxi when it was daylight. So unless he took it in the middle of the day and it's like winter, I feel like there has been a bit more time moving in the film than otherwise. I feel like this is a cop out too. Sad clown. Aren't all clowns sad? Don't you know the story of the opera clown? Truly, sadness comes when you wear the happy mask. I am, what is it, Palgetti the clown? What's that joke from Watchmen? Andre seems chipper, but a running theme of the film is about wearing a mask. We all wear masks. Did you know that, Stanley Ipkiss? We all wear masks, especially in a superhero film. That's why. This is why Andre is actually the Joker. We all wear masks, Batman. We all do. This is why it's the perfect follow-up. My Dinner with David Lynch would definitely be a film I'd love to make. Truly, we were talking. My dinner with food. That's the trope, guys. I'm sorry, you can't have that. My Conan impression. Did I do a Conan impression? Conan who? Conan O'Brien? I mean, I think Dinner with David Lynch. Alright guys, I need to express this one, but in the future there's actually a video I want to make. And I only want to make it so I can do a David Lynch impression, and it was going to be called like the failed live action versions of it's going to be called like the numerous failed attempts of a live action Akira, something like that, like the failed live action Akira projects, something like that. That's what the title is going to be called, and I'm going to throw in a bunch of other Otomos in the process, because there's other versions of his films that have been made. One of them including Domu with David Lynch. We talked about it on stream a couple times. But like I only want to do it so I can do like a David Lynch impression. When someone described it and they said there's like one bit where like David Lynch is like, I'll see if I can find more that he said about it, but he goes, "Don't say another word, I'm in." Something like that, and I just wanted to draw a picture of David Lynch while also doing a goofy impression of him. That's the only reason I want to make the video, even though that has nothing to do with the premise of the video. But it's just going to be a caveat within the video. Yeah, well, I mean, Kings of Comedy, I wouldn't say it's a perfect one-to-one. I feel like Scorsese in general is the general looseness of the Joker. Definitely, I mean, Scorsese was a producer, but they're kind of going for that 70s Scorsese edge. Certainly, Taxi Driver and Kings of Comedy were influencers. I wouldn't say it's a one-for-one, because what they're trying to approach as films is very different. Where, like, a lot of the time you could argue Scorsese's films are very they're individualistic, and they're sort of an element of the sort of like an aftermath of it. Like, say for example, Taxi Driver is about like an ex-Vietnam veteran who's like really not well, and he's sort of planning to kill the mayor, and like, but ultimately the film focuses on his inner narration and how like at the end he's almost in a subtle, I wouldn't say it's subtle, but like it kind of is like the film ultimately the film Taxi Driver is about how badass Travis Bickle is in a way. Of course, there's a fucked up undercurrent to it when you realize like, yeah, this man is not well, he's kind of fucked up, he's really not with it. But the most of the film is kind of like him doing clap press ups and pulling guns out and shooting people and being like, he's kind of being like a badass guy who just doesn't fuck, and he's like, this fucking world sucks, this fucking fuck this world. And he gives it the monologue, and he's like, he's in the theater and he's going pow, 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 pow. That's kind of what you get from Taxi Driver. Of course, the film is not pro that, but like Scorsese's always very ambivalent with the morally ambiguously dark characters he creates. He doesn't tend to line on either side about what they are as characters. Where Joker is a film that absolutely has a message and a very pointed issue. That like Joker is a byproduct of society. He is he was being failed by the system in the same way that Bickle has, but in a way where he is much more pathetic and kind of sympathetic in a way that Bickle is not. And even within the ending, like the ending of Joker is starting like a sort of riot because of the situation they're in. Like it's almost like it's like a riot against the rich, against the insistence. That's not what happens in Taxi Driver. He shoots a bunch of like pimps, and then he gets like becomes like a town hero because he took martial justice into his own hands. These are very different perspectives. King of Comedy is generally about just a very terrible person who gets famous for doing kidnapping a guy and doing a terrible comedy set. And like there's the element at the end of the film is kind of similar to what happened in, but like Joker never does like a proper set. He does one in the middle of the film, which is then made fun of, but he never does like a proper like Kings of Comedy, like, hey everyone, let me tell you my jokes, like I'm a star, that kind of thing. Yeah, My Dinner with Stephen is truly the anger we all see. I'm going to turn into David Lynch. My hair will go that way when it goes white. I heard there was going to be a live-action Bible Black, but I think that's years ago. Conan O'Brien? His Jock Around will do the Irish person leprechaun speech. Yeah, I mean, maybe both me and Conan are Scott, Irish in descent, but yeah. So I need to get back to this. So yeah, sad clown. So, Andre's actually sad when he was supposed to be happy. Shout out, The Little Prince, that's a novel, isn't it? To The Little Prince, although Nazi rags on it, even comparing it to Nazism is a bit weird. It isn't like a fucking book. It's like a child's book, isn't it, Little Prince? Winds up discussing the themes explored in the book, and the night goes on. However, the feelings of isolation. Okay, so he talks about a piece of media that's not good. Apparently that's a trope. Slice of life played with. Ah, yes, a slice of life, the true trope of my time. Not a genre, but a trope. However, the weird stories of Andre tells could themselves be the plots of entire movies. They could be, but I think that's kind of the irony, is they don't have the budget to tell them outside of that. Society marches on, averted. Sadly, most of the issues raised in the film are still around. Yeah, no shit. Things don't change in that kind of... I don't even... Oh my... Okay. Wow, things are still bad in the world. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I guess so. We haven't turned into a utopian state in the last 4 years. Sliding scales of idealism versus cynicism. I think my voice is starting to give out. Given the very grounded and unbiased way the movie treats the character... That's not true. Okay, I don't want to get into that, but yeah, contrasting ideologies is now a trope. Speech-centric work. This is just the third fucking time we've seen this. Yes, people talking this up. Spiritual successor. What the fuck are you on? What? Spiritual successor? So Wally and Andre shoot Isbin? Okay, I don't even know about that film, but I guess being a spiritual successor is a trope now? I don't know. Take that, me? After talking about... Oh, okay, we're almost at the end, everyone. I put you through hell, guys, but we made it to the end. Congratulations. What is the documents in the screen? We've been talking about My Dinner with Andre, as it says up here. My Dinner with Andre. You might have missed it, but I'm sure the chat's been... We've been talking about the film My Dinner with Andre, and specifically about... this is me just shit-talking tropes for like an hour. But yeah, comparing The Little Prince with Nazism is truly the height of... Again, like you said, he's not well. Andre is not well. Yeah, we've been talking about My Dinner with Andre and TV tropes, and for the particular reason of that, websites like this are inherently full of just complete gobbledygook. And I was trying to use the example of a film that was once called by Ebert, the film critic Ebert. He said this was a film that he thought was without trope. So I was curious, like, what would the film without trope truly feel like when we bring it to the modern trope catalogue? And we get this, which is being very tired. Oh yeah, something. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a failed thing. I don't think they're going to make the Bible Black film, but that's neither here nor here. Today is Friday in 2015. Yeah. Okay, so let's finally go through the bits here. What was this one about? After talking about all the world travels and his metaphysical encounter groups, Andre attacks his flightiness, snarking, "Who did I think I was, you know? I mean, that's the story of some kind of spoiled princess, you know? Who did I think I was? The Shah of Iran?" I guess he has some sort of what would you call it? He kind of, self-aware? Kind of self-aware? Talking heads. Jesus fucking Christ. Is this going to be another people talking? The modern trope code of... Dare I click on it? Dare I click on this to find out what they mean when they say talking heads? Just people talking? Yeah, just people talking. The fifth time we've seen that. Just people talking. Just people talking. And, okay, so I'll give them this one. Title drop. I'll give them saying the name of the title in the movie could be considered a trope. I'll give them that. So that's like 3 tropes in this film out of the things. If I was being nice. My dinner with my erection. Yeah, that's my every night, baby. Windows 10 forever. Which one's a King Crimson song? I mean, King Crimson's pretty good. What, Bible Black? Is that one? Oh, okay, maybe it is. Yeah, jazz solo nice. Yeah, I mean, like I said before earlier, the thing with TV tropes, I think, but we've kind of came to the conclusion for this conversation, is that TV tropes is a sightless. It is a organization which is trying to give more tidbits about films, but without citing any of the information and where it's from. Like, say for example, these quotes I've been reading. I'll give my Sean impression. I'll give my Shaw impression. "I treated myself to a taxi. I rode home through a city streets. There wasn't a street. There wasn't a building. There wasn't a connected to some memory in my mind. There I wasn't buying a suit with my father. There I was having an ice cream soda after school. And when I finally came, Debbie was home from work, and I told her everything about my dinner with Andre." There you go. I think that's what it said in the film, if I vaguely remember. The tropeless tale. We've hit it. This whole page apparently shouldn't exist. Obviously, this page proves that tropes are... No, it doesn't. It does not prove that there are tropes in this film. There is, maybe 3, if you could call them that, maybe. But this does not prove your point. You're turning the tropeless into a trope. What? Roger Ebert... Yeah, this is exactly what I'm saying. Roger Ebert once noted that My Dinner with Andre defies far more tropes than it embraces. Yes, it's just 2 people talking. And then finally, the final one. Let me take a little breather for a second, because Jesus fucking Christ. I'm gonna become the Joker. What the hell, hero? Wally vents at Andre during the last third of the film. Yeah, I guess that's true. Wally does vent at Andre and talks about how he likes to drink his coffee and go on with his day and not worry about conspiracy theories. Oh, okay. Like I said, Sonherd, I mean, if you want to just enjoy TV tropes as just kind of a thing that you look at, just whatever. I mean, I don't really mind, but I feel, like I said, once you start using it in your videos as like a signifier of concepts in this way, you get the axe. Because there's no citations here. This stuff is all like baseless, made up stuff most of the time. There's certainly, if you can't cite your tropes somewhere else to like a concept, like, when I brought up early in the stream, I brought up the idea of refrigerating, because I said, like, yeah, actually, refrigerating is a trope I don't like, and I totally feel like the comic industry should have moved past it, and I totally understand why people be frustrated with the concept of refrigerating, like fridging these women in these stories. Or like the children or family members, whatever you want it to be, like whoever you're fridging, just for the sake of like some sort of character progress. I think it's not productive most of the time, because these characters in comics don't stay dead either. So like it's just like a farce half the time. So in that instance, I would not cite TV tropes. I would cite Gail Simone, who pioneered this on her website many, many years ago, and I would use her website as a citing of how comic writers are responding to it. That's how I would do it. I would not use a site that doesn't even, like, I've been saying quotes all night. I have no idea if any of those are actually in the film or correct. I'd have to double verify it because the film doesn't, they've been giving out interview quotes and other bits and pieces, but they haven't been citing where they're from the whole time we've been reading. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, okay. That was a lot. Well, there we go. We did TV tropes. I've destroyed with facts and logic. Everything is done. TV tropes is now a broken website. It doesn't work anymore. My expert taking down of the site has destroyed their self-esteem, their money, their budget, their will to continue doing stuff. I've really just broken them completely with my savage burns. My dinner with the bathroom in the bathroom, nice one. I would not trust a website with TV tropes for anything because they don't cite anything. It's just hearsay. Even Wikipedia, like, is pretty bad in terms of, like, hearsay because anyone can edit it. So, like, if there isn't, like, a point of citation next to something, you should never trust what Wikipedia says. I had this problem yesterday when I found that there was a movie that they quoted was one of 4C's, which was not, had nothing to do with them. So I ended up downloading this film and watching some of it and then coming to the conclusion, like, wait, this doesn't feel like a 4C film or any relation to it. So I had to check the credits and then I had to double check the website and I spent like an hour verifying that it wasn't one of their films. And I was just like, I just wasted all that time because Wikipedia didn't, check shit. But it's off there now. I made sure that they removed it. I mean, it's useful for any type of, I feel like it's a useless website for any type of, like, media critique or anything to do with that or citing. I think it's a useless website. Is Andre the hero? Well, it's not Andre who's the hero. The hero would be Wallace. So, like, they're saying that, like, Wallace is taking down Andre because it's, like, mostly Andre talking, then at the end, Wallace retorts. I took them down very hard. Yeah, I have destroyed them with my facts and logic, guys. Yes, the TV tropes will never live another day. I mean, a catalogue of new obscure things. It depends what you mean by new obscure things, I guess. Just because I feel like a lot of the stuff they categorize, they don't do it correctly. So I'm very anxious to say that TV tropes is useful for most. I think that TV tropes is only useful to just state that, like, this is what people think the tropes are of certain things. But then I would like to get a source beyond TV tropes. Like I said before, like, I'd like to have something that's more concrete than, like, someone created this weird trope out of nowhere that only exists for 5 people on the internet. Whew, okay.